Remember, there's some pretty important information here in the disclaimer. You might want to give the video a quick pause and read it.
Oh, hey everybody, it's me, Sonic! Sonic the Hedgehog! Just here to remind you that if you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button. And for even more amazing customs, don't forget to subscribe to Wake Angel 2001! Because between you and me, they're way past cool!
Hello my friends, Wake Angel 2001 coming at you with a personal project, one that has been a long time coming and a continuation of my home-built Saturday morning toy line. We are making a Swat Bot. Yes, the good old-fashioned classic minion robot that has served as Dr. Robotnik's personal enforcers for, wow, quite a long time. First of all, there have been a lot of robots in the in the Swat Bot. Oh, shall we call it the line, the Swat Bot line? Because yeah, they're having quite a few. Besides the original appearance in the cartoon, they were quite a feature in the comic book, the Archie comic book specifically, for decades. I guess, like, the first decade and a half, they were very common sights before they started to replace them with other things. But a lot of people may be familiar with the color scheme where they had more of a police officer kind of thing going on with a lot more white and gray. I always figured that made them look a little bit less threatening. And they actually were less threatening. In the comic book, they were always torn apart left and right and were pretty ineffective overall. But upon rewatching the original Saturday morning cartoon, you actually find out that they're a way more credible threat there. In the cartoon, I only actually saw them get destroyed a couple of times. Most of the times, the freedom fighters distract or evade these things. It makes them appear like much more credible of a threat. Like they're something that the freedom fighters really can't take on easily. I mean, after all, they only have one superhero. But yeah, like these guys, They came off as, like, the way that they talk about stormtroopers in the first Star Wars movie, rather than the way that the stormtroopers are portrayed later on down the line. It's really kind of like that. The cartoon is like only stormtroopers are this precise. And then the comic book versions are like, I got stormtrooper syndrome. I can't hit targets at all. Of course, the SWAT bots would get a lot of upgrades in the comic books. Like, they would be upgraded to the Shadow bots, which ironically look like beefier versions of the original cartoon version. Seen here with a bunch of other upgraded badniks. You got a Combot, you got some E-Series robots. There's even a robot in the background there that is based on one of the robots from the Sonic the Hedgehog OVA. We would also get egg swats. Yeah, that's right. SWAT bots that would be combined with elements of egg pawns, which are way bigger than your standard egg pawn. I believe I made a custom of these guys a long time ago. That's something interesting to note. And of course, there were SWAT bots in other media, if you recall the episode of the Saturday morning cartoon where they time traveled, they had this older model SWAT bot, which was actually a police robot. Looks like those little spindly legs show that this probably isn't something enforced for like goose stepping around. It's specialized to mostly ride around his little patrol motorcycle and only needs to get up to do minor tasks. And then there was, of course, the SWAT bots from Sonic Underground, but you know, I'm going to be straight with you. I never liked this design. I always thought that this looked more like a dude wearing a stupid suit than it looked like a threatening robot. I mean, the gun hand is okay, but I don't know. This design, it's overly complicated and it's just not as threatening looking. I think it's the color scheme too. That mauve and purple color scheme it does not come across as a dystopian nightmare stormtrooper. It comes across as I don't know, it just looks silly. And I know a lot of people would be really upset if I didn't mention that SWAT bots did make it into the video game continuity. In Sonic Chronicles: The Dark Brotherhood, we got an actual version of the SWAT bot for the video games, and it actually looks pretty intimidating. It harkens back to the threatening look that the robots had for the original Saturday morning cartoon. In fact, the color scheme that they're given actually matches the original concept art, where they're where they have a lot more gray, like harsh metal in their color scheme, as opposed to the more the more painted blue look that they had in the cartoon, or the less threatening white and gray scheme they had in the comic. So yeah, this is a huge, beefy, solid robot. And it does look like something that the modern video game Sonic would have a hard time dealing with. But I'm not doing a history on the SWAT bots here. I'm doing a video about making a toy of one. So let's get to that. The base figure that I chose to go with was a Lightyear movie Buzz Lightyear. And I could write a doctoral thesis on how I did not really like the Lightyear movie, and I consider it a failure on 3 different levels, but this video is already getting a little bit long, so let's just get ahead to making the toy. The Lightyear figure dismantles fairly simply. It's one of those things where the torso is a hard plastic that doesn't yield to boiling water, so the shoulders and hips had to be left in. But everything else kind of comes out fairly simply. The first thing I had to do was trim this collar down, because the Lightyear collar comes up in the back, because that's where the helmet's supposed to come out. Interesting to note, on the original toy, there are divots, which, for a bubble dome helmet accessory to be placed on the figure, so you can be in, like, flight mode. But the figure doesn't actually come with that accessory. The only accessory it comes with is that little lightsaber nightstick thing. I feel like they were trying to gouge for like a premium variant, like a more expensive version that would come with the helmet and the flight pack, because there is a hole in his back for wings to go in, which he doesn't come with either. So there's probably a premium variant that's meant to come with those accessories, but they use the exact same figure mold for the cheaper release. I don't know, I feel like that's kind of nickel and diming us. Anyway, filing down that thing did not look pretty from the top. As you can see, that I exposed hollow spaces. So this is where some sculpting goes in to get rid of that, that ugly melted plastic look. And of course, a little bit of sculpting on the chest to remove the buttons, of course, to give us a much more smooth pectoral thing. And of course, the next thing to do for the upper body was to make the shoulder pads. Now, I don't have a lot of high-end fabrication stuff, so I couldn't take precise measurements on this thing to model them in Tinkercad either. So, it's just craft foam, which is fine because this means that if I accidentally drop the figure, the shoulder pads will be more likely to flex than shatter. So, yeah, call that a win. Now, the thing I was particularly proud of was the head, because this head is 100% my own original creation. You can download it yourself from Tinkercad if you want. I was really proud that I actually got the SWAT Bot look with, just my own skills in 3D modeling, limited though they may be. It helps that the head is inherently a simple construction. I used the reference from the original cartoon to actually get references on how wide the head should be, of course, how tall it is, get all those shapes in there, how wide the eyes are. So, this is me actually working from a 2D reference and turning it into a 3D object. Printing it out, I made sure that it would have a gap in the bottom, which would be big enough to accommodate this. If you're wondering what that peach thing is, it is Buzz Lightyear's neck peg. I cut Buzz Lightyear's face and head details away from a plug of plastic so that I could just stick that into the head so I could keep using the original ball joint. And I glued Buzz Lightyear's head back together without it to create like a little Buzz Lightyear mask. I'll have fun with that later. And the only other sculpting aside from that was the 2 little ankle spikes and those fins that they have on his forearms. So that's relatively simple. And then comes the color scheme. I decided to go with the original cartoon look because all of my Saturday morning Sonic figures have been based on their original cartoon look and not their Archie comic look. So he gets this navy blue color scheme with the lighter blue stomach thing that he has going on. And yeah, like all the parts simply had to be repainted in the same way. So here is the reveal. Boom! The Swat Bot action figure. It's amazing how Buzz Lightyear's armor actually matches the Swat Bot's look so closely. Because, you know, like, that's just it. Like, this really does just look like a Swat Bot. The neck came out a little bit skinny. When I was making this, I wasn't sure how far down the head would go on that neck peg, so I was afraid of sculpting around the neck for fear of not being able to put the head back on. But now that I know the limits, I think next time I will make the neck a little bit thicker to match that robotic look that he has. But with the neck this thin, I will admit that it does give him a little bit more expression. Since it's a ball joint, the head can actually tilt inquisitively. You know, it's not like he can look up like he's flying like Superman, but, you know, it is a little bit more range than if I had just made the neck really thick and then it would essentially have a swivel. But yeah, this thing totally matches up with the Saturday morning figures that I've already made. He's a decent height next to them, like Sonic and the crew are roughly waist height, which is more or less cartoon accurate. The figure is 5.5 inch tall for anybody who wants to get some absolute numbers on there. But yeah, that is the Swat Bot. So the Saturday morning cartoon line continues. This is Wake Angel 2001, signing off.